Good evening. I'd like to welcome each of you to another edition of the Wright Experience. I'm Dr. William T. Wright Jr., the founder and host of the show. We have another amazing guest, and I have known this guest for a number of years. In fact, I was just thinking the other day, we cut our teeth as principals many years ago, and I think we both are on some different paths, but still trying to impact the lives of children whenever we can. My guest tonight is Dr. Montrio Belton. Dr. Montrio Belton is an experienced criminal, civil, and educational litigator and has represented clients at all levels of South Carolina courts and in South Carolina's federal district court. Montrio represents clients in hearings and trials in the court system, as well as before local school boards and educational hearing officers. He has successfully tried cases before a jury and relentlessly represents students and parents in urgent educational matters such as school expulsions, special education, due process hearings, and individual education plans or IEP meetings. As a former school principal, teacher, and South Carolina's director of school transformation, Montrio is knowledgeable and prepared to advocate for students and parents seeking a voice in their child's education. Many of Montrio's clients are ordinary citizens that have been charged with misdemeanor or felony crimes, students that have been expelled from school or are not receiving a free and appropriate education, FAPE, that is guaranteed under the Exceptional Children's Law and under the IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or persons that have been injured because of the negligence of somebody else. Dr. Belton also served 6 years in the United States Army Reserves. He received his bachelor's and master's degree from Winthrop University, and he has a doctorate in educational leadership from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. He also has a Juris Doctorate from the University of South Carolina School of Law and is admitted to practice law in South Carolina state courts and South Carolina's federal district court. And at this time, I'd like to welcome to the Wright Experience, Dr. Montrio Belton. Welcome to the Wright Experience, my friend.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I was just here laughing. You're right. It's been a long time. We're both senior members of the profession now, right?
Absolutely. And I don't remember having any gray hair at the time that we first met each other.
And I had an afro.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. But it's a pleasure to have you here. Certainly, before we get into the show, I just want to say that I'm very proud of you and what you have done and you've accomplished. You have certainly turned the page in terms of going from being a very prominent and successful principal to now practicing law, and that's an amazing thing. When I first heard of that, I said, "Oh, okay, cool." But we're certainly proud of you and certainly excited about having you on the show. We're going to get into some questions just in short order here. We want to have plenty of opportunity for you to talk to us about what you're currently doing, and I've got a few buzz questions that might get us where we need to be. So right off the bat, I'd like to say you were a veteran educator for many years. What prompted you to make the transition into law?
So first of all, let me say I do consider you a friend, and you're right. To those who, that's I guess right, you are right. Right, you're on the Wright Experience, right? So Dr. Wright and I did meet each other when we were both brand new principals. I was starting my principalship there in North Carolina. Dr. Wright was in North Carolina, had done his tenure as a classroom teacher, assistant principal. And back then we had to do a new principal experience, and I don't remember the name of it because that was 20 plus years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
At Chapel Hill. And so we ended up spending about 2 years together at Chapel Hill once or twice a month, or however periodically we were there, but spent a lot of time together and got to know about each other's families, our careers. And fortunately, through Facebook and social media and other things, we've been able to keep up with each other. So I am glad that you have finally come across the line and you're cheering for the Wright Carolina now. And I wore this hoodie just for you now, that you're not over there in Tar Heel country, you are Wolfpack country for you. You over here now in the real Carolina.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, we can go there for a minute. When I first came to South Carolina back in 2013,
To McCormick.
I bought my first shirt that had Carolina on it, and it was garnet and black. It was not light blue, powder blue. So I upset many people, but anyway, so I'm okay with that.
Okay, all right. So yeah, you did come down to McCormick, and I'm from Abbeville, and of course I followed you, and you and I reconnected when you were down there in your tenure as superintendent. And let me just say to you, you gave me some accolades, man. But starting to being brand new principals, we're both in the room. Neither one of us knows what we're doing. Going through that training to now see you as a successful superintendent, multiple school districts, and here serving our state and our students. And I will disagree on one thing you said, that we're on different paths. We are not on different paths, brother. We are still doing what we have both been doing for the past 30 years, and that's fighting for the rights of children to be educated, because we realize, I remember many of those conversations we had, man, that education is the currency to upward mobility. And it has been the path for you. It has been the path for me. And we are both in different arenas fighting, but we're still fighting the same fight. So thank you for having me. To answer your question, man, I actually applied to law school out of undergraduate. So teaching actually was technically my second career. My first career was always to be an attorney. Unfortunately, I did not get into law school. And so that was probably my first major disappointment in life. I applied to 5 law schools. I didn't get in any of them. And so when I didn't get in law school, I had to have a backup plan. I had to get a job. I had a degree in history, and I was either going to go work at the Smithsonian, give tours at some national park, or do something else. And I didn't want to be outside 7 days a week, 365 days a week here. But I was tutoring at Winthrop. And while I was tutoring at Winthrop, a guy said, well, Montrio, you've done a great job as tutoring. Why don't you consider education, and you can still graduate on time? And so I doubled up some things in summer school and got in my education courses, got into a student teaching experience, and absolutely loved it. And once I began teaching, then I got into coaching. Teaching led into a master's degree, which I became an assistant principal. The master's degree led into my doctorate at UNC Charlotte. That got me into the principalship. That's where I met you. Once I was done that, I was tapped to come back to South Carolina to be the director of school transformation. And while I was there, I was working with attorneys, some on policy, some on educational law, things that were impacting the state. I was at the highest level of educational government in the state, and I was seeing it, and that bug to practice law came back. And so I was, at that point, I was 15 years into my career. And I said, if I'm going to make the switch, I've got to make the switch now. And so I did. I made the switch then, kind of walked away, went to law school, and kind of the rest is history.
Okay, cool. And I don't know that I knew that when you initially made the switch, but certainly I've been keeping up with you, brother, for the last few years, and certainly we all need people that really understand the business. They don't like for me to use the word business, but that's what I call it. Although it is a profession, a calling, education is also a business at times. But let's kind of get right into probably the most important question I might ask tonight. What advice do you give to people, if you will, as to when people should seek or retain legal counsel? I know that's a broad question, but
So it really depends on what the context is. And let me just preface my comments by saying a lot of my work is in the education arena.
Okay.
And I always tell parents when they call me and do a consult, the one thing that you don't want to be in is litigation with your local school district. If you can, most educators whom I have met and I have interacted with truly are in education because they love children. They want to do the right thing. That doesn't mean they're perfect. That doesn't mean they don't make mistakes. That doesn't mean that they're going to always make a decision that you agree with. But I have found most rank and file people want to work with kids and parents, and most superintendents want to work with kids and parents. And most problems are problems simply because of miscommunication. When you boil it down, it's this person didn't return my phone call. This person didn't respond to me. I sent an email 3 weeks ago and nobody's gotten back to me. That's 99% of the problems. Where there become issues, and I wouldn't tell people now you probably need to engage an attorney, and I'm talking about specifically in the education arena, is if there's a decision that's going to be made that has a consequential impact on your life and you're going to lose something. For instance, if the school system is recommending expelling your child, and you probably are well aware of this, that we had the statute, there was some advocacy from people like myself and others. I took a lesser role, but certainly was in the background supporting this particular statute change. The expulsion statute in South Carolina changed last summer, where now if you want to expel a child, before you sign your name on there, you have to put that paragraph in there telling a parent that they have a right to an attorney. And if they don't can't afford an attorney, they have a right to call legal services to get a free attorney appointed to them. But try to apply for a free attorney. That's now part of the statutory language that has to go out with expulsion notices. If IDEA, special education, ESE, I think is what some districts call it now, because those have consequential, those have regulatory things that are sometimes can be very complicated for parents to navigate. Those things become important, and I think you should get an attorney. And obviously, anytime you think there's some type of deprivation of a civil right, certainly on the criminal side, before you give any statement to law enforcement, you should always consult an attorney. And then there are other things when you're just navigating that has a lot of legal nuances. Practicing street law is never a good advice. Never, 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 never good advice.
Right. Do you see are those attempts though increasing, decreasing? Do people really understand that sometimes?
No, because most people don't understand that a $300 consult can save you thousands of dollars on the
Right.
back end. And let me put in a shameless plug now, and I'm putting it in a shameless plug because I don't necessarily practice estate law. I do a very little estate law. All right. But what I have seen is the backside of it. I will do some estate litigation, and that's mom and dad are now dead, and mom and dad have a house, and mom and dad didn't spend $300 to go get a will done, and now all the children are fighting, and it's going to cost the children more to litigate the house than what the house costs. When it $300, they could have gotten a will done by a lawyer, not from LegalZoom or some of these other internet programs, but from a lawyer licensed in the state where the real estate is or where your parents live. So I see those things a lot. And I will tell you, if those types of decisions must be made on the back end, make those decisions on the front end. So yes, in some arenas, it is hard to convince people why you need to have an attorney to do estate planning and those things. Most of the time when people call my office, it's a fire that needs water right now. And if they had called me 2 weeks earlier, 2 months earlier, 2 years earlier, it was a small brush fire, and we probably could have put it out by dumping a little sand on it. But now we need the entire ocean, and obviously to buy the entire ocean is going to cost you a whole lot more money.
So I didn't really know we were going down that path, but it's an important path as we get older and try to provide for our parents. So I love it. I love it. What do so how do we get that message to our seniors, our parents, that we're not trying to take something from them?
You know, Dr. Wright, thank you. And you don't know how much this means to me that you're asking me these questions about estate planning. And, you know, it's before you and I came online, when we were just offline chatting, we were
Right.
both talking about our ages now. And I think you say you're 58 and I'm 52. We're not the 20 some, early 30 some year olds we were back in the day when we were working together and
Right.
training together. And so, guess what? As we have aged, our parents and our grandparents, many of us have lost our grandparents by this point. So, we're at our parents. And if you're like me, you can see your parents aging. Even if we think we're not aging, I see my parents aging right before my eyes. And so,
Absolutely.
I've had to have, even though I'm an attorney, it's been a struggle for me, who my parents call me about everything else, anything that goes on, anything they see on TV. Is that real? Is that real? Can people really do that? You know, tell me about this case, particularly when the Murdoch case and all that was going on. They were glued to the televisions. They were so interested in that. But let me mention to them, let's talk about this will. Let's talk about what happens to your affairs once you're gone. Let's have a conversation about how do you want your estate settled, or who you're going to give what to. And then it becomes almost selected mute. It's just, so I wish I knew the answer to that. I'm an attorney, and it's been a very difficult conversation in my family, with my siblings, with my parents, with everyone. I forced the conversation because I have a close enough relationship with my parents that I could do that. Quite
Yeah.
frankly, with my mom, I just called her up one day and say, I've made this appointment with this attorney. I just need you to go see the attorney.
Yeah.
And my mom went and got her. I didn't give her an option. With my dad, he had already done his estate planning, but I had a very serious conversation with him about it. You know, do you have things in order? So, you know, when something happens to you, not if, but when that ultimate day comes, that your family and your loved ones are not left trying to figure out what your final desires are.
Right. Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think that's a constant conversation that many of us need to have now. So thank you for
right.
that guidance and advice. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, right. And I wish I knew the magic trick,
Yeah,
particularly in the African American community.
yeah. There you go. Absolutely. So, Dr. Belton, we're gonna go with Dr. Belton right now. Uh,
You're killing me, man.
you,
You're killing me.
you obviously have done extremely well. So, what advice would you give to a young, up and coming uh, Montrio in the pursuit of the career that you carved out for yourself if you had to start all over from the beginning?
Um, so, you know, the major thing, William, is um, that number one, no, it's not an option.
Yeah.
Preparation equals success. You and I were talking early on that I truly do still believe that education is the currency to upward mobility.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I have gotten older, certainly when you and I came through, and definitely when I came through, I was in advanced classes and things, and our term for education was a 4-year university. Now that I am more seasoned in the world, I recognize that there are other ways you can be educated, and not that doesn't necessarily mean a 4-year traditional path like you and I took. Children who are coming through our technical programs are graduating from our technical programs and doing extremely well in life and being able to make it. My sister is a career military person who ended up getting her college degrees while she was in the military, but she started as a military person who's had a tremendous blessed career through the military. It has resulted in college degrees and things that she can do post, but all her formal technical training took place in the military and have now become transferable skills that she will have beyond. So to a young Montrio, I would say, you know, keep your nose clean.
Yeah.
Keep your credit clean. Don't put yourself in a position, as I tell my children, where other people can make decisions about your life. One of the things that I often say, people who can't control themselves get controlled. So as long as you can control yourself and you can work hard and do what you're supposed to do, it's amazing how things will work out for you, because you're prepared. And when those opportunities present themselves, you're now in a position where you can maximize the opportunities.
Do you think that that message, what an amazing message to send? Uh, do you think we're doing a good enough job of distributing that message? You know, when you and I, you're younger than I am, as we discovered, but uh, you know, when you and I were coming up, everybody was being sent to a 4-year university. Yet I'm married to someone who doesn't have a 4-year university degree, and she's done pretty well with her career, and we learn more and more that there are options for children. So for me, I always talk about level next. That's what it's really all about. When you graduate from high school, if you can convince me that you have a level next, you got something that you're going to do, then I'm okay with that. And as long as you've thought it out and all of that. But do you think in the masses we've made that transition like we ought to?
I don't, and as you know, we've talked about it. You and I talked a couple of weeks ago when we
Right.
kind of chopped it up. In a couple of weeks ago when we were together, and we chopped it up. Dr. Wright, um, and I'm on the school board, up here where I live,
Yeah.
and I am just amazed at how phenomenal our applied technology center is. And some people call it a career center, some people call it vocational. What those students are learning in that applied technology center, quite frankly, I wish we had a way where 100% of the students in our district could get one of those certain. That was a requirement that one of them, even if you're going to a 4-year university. As a matter of fact, my own biological daughter, who's never wanted to be anything but a pediatrician in life, number 14 in her class, does extremely well. She's at our local applied technology center getting a CNA certificate prior to her graduating from high school, because we saw the value in her learning the tools of being a CNA prior to graduation. We do not do a good job in my local community of promoting technical education and what technical education could mean for a kid's career, particularly a child who's not interested. One of the other things, and this is an interesting concept, you're a superintendent, that I've kind of thrown out with my folks up here. When we have children who are not able to function in our traditional setting, and I'm sure every school district has them, and they end up in an alternative educational setting. Why can't that alternative educational setting be a career technology center or a vocation or whatever y'all call it in Sumter? So
Right.
now you are assigned to a welding class, or you're assigned to whatever the class is. Instead of going to an alternative program where you're sitting somewhere doing more of the same, you're somewhere like the old Job Corps used to be back when we were children. Students went off who didn't graduate or had some behavior issues. They went to Job Corps and they learned a skill. And Job Corps saved a lot of these kids' lives. Why can't our alternative program look like Job Corps? Because many of those children who end up in our alternative programs are also the children who are counted against your graduation rate. They're the kids who you end up losing through the dropout process, or they're the kids who come back and then that recidivism rate. So I'm just thinking about, so the short answer to your question is no, we're not doing a great job. I don't think we're doing it in mass. And I don't think that we are putting enough money into career and technical education as a whole, as a society.
Okay, all right. You got me over here taking notes now. That's good stuff. And I think that we've got to provide a multiplicity of options, because after all, this stuff is not fit in a nice, neat little box. We ought to have options for children. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So I'm going to go here, and I know you'll help me with this answer. I know you will. What are your thoughts about the actions taking place right now concerning the U.S. Department of Education and how it's going to affect public schools? We read a bio. I'm going to set this up really pretty for you. We read a bio talking about IDEA and all the things that you help families with. So what are your thoughts on that? How do we?
So I am concerned.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't have a constitutional right to an education. All right,
Right.
we don't. We have a state constitutional right, but we don't have a federal constitutional right to a free and appropriate education. South Carolina Constitution does have it. Sorry about that. South Carolina Constitution does have it in its state constitution. When we start talking about, but the federal government always had its grips on us because of money. If you don't do what you're supposed to do in these areas, then we're going to take your money. And so that's what basically coerced states, local school districts to doing what my concern is if the federal government is not overseeing civil rights, special education, what is that going to mean for the least of these in the history of our country? But for the federal government, marginalized communities and marginalized people have never had the protections. What now? Are we still going to have these special needs kids in our schools? Yes. Will we still have the federal law? Yes. But if the state of South Carolina or if the local school district doesn't do the right thing and the money is coming from the state and the state is not going to pull your money, what's your incentive if you are an entity who's not interested in doing it? Because some of our children are medically fragile. Some of our children just have so many concerns. And if there's not an oversight entity, now, personally, I don't think the money is going away. I think the department may go away or may not exist in the same structure that it currently exists. I think the money is going to be at the state level. The money is still going to come to the districts. You're still going to have Title I money. You're still going to have special ed money. Still going to have Title II, your PD money, Title III, Title IV. Those things are still going to exist. I just think the feds will send it to the states send it to us. I'm concerned not having that safety valve up there as it relates to civil rights for special ed needs kids. Now, I think if we want to get into the politics of all of this, I think we went too far. We went too far in recent years as it relates to Title IX, and to recalibrate that, the pendulum just swung all the way back over to another extreme. And unfortunately, that's where we are, where the vast majority of us are here in the middle. And I think ultimately who are going to suffer are marginalized children in marginalized communities.
Wonderful. I couldn't have said it better myself. Absolutely. So if you are advising families, so you're having a conversation at church house or in your office or Walmart or whatever, how would you advise families to navigate the changing landscape in public schools? Here's what I mean by that. With all of these uncertainties about if I've got a special needs child, if I've got a child in an impoverished home, what advice would you give them? How do we navigate?
Well, in terms of advice, I really do wish I had the magic bullet. I truly don't have the magic bullet. How do we get engaged? And William, I'm going to ask you your question, Dr. Wright, but let me kind of set it up before. Yeah, sure. I am not one who just beat up on families. I think I have lived long enough now. I have not met the mother yet who told me, I don't care about my child. I don't want my child to get an education. In fact, I want my child to go to prison. I haven't met that mother yet. Now, have I met parents who have different parenting skills than I have, who have different resources than I have, who may have a different value system than I have? Yes. Most of the parents I meet are hardworking people who are just trying to pay $4 a dozen for a dozen of eggs, who just trying to make ends meet and may not necessarily know how to navigate the system. So I come at it from that lens, that I'm not going to blame people who are just trying to do the best they can to get through where they are. At the same time, when you do make the choice to have a child, there comes some responsibility with that. And so how do we educate parents that this system is going to continue to move? This system is going to be different. And if your child is going to function in this system, then you're going to have to figure out how to navigate it. I'm here to help you navigate it, but you got to meet me halfway. You've got to, at least, if you can't show up for meetings, get emails and at least respond to my emails, or at least get a phone number. And I don't care if it changes every week. Just let me know it has changed so I can reach you through text message or something. But you've got to. So to answer your question, my answer is trying to motivate them to at least stay engaged in the process, even if you can't physically be there. Most schools have all calls, they have emails, they have texting systems. There are so many ways that you can be engaged. I'm embarrassed to admit, I cannot tell you one of my daughter's teachers' names. I'm on the school board and I consider myself an active parent. I don't know one of my kids' teachers' names, but I can tell you what my kids' grades are. I can tell you where she is with her assignments. I can tell you that she was at school today. So there are ways that I'm engaged. I have checks and balances in place, but I'm not necessarily over at the schoolhouse walking the halls every day. So I say that, that parents, because I work a full-time job, I'm at work. So just like they're at work. So my advice to them is you've got to figure out your modus operandi of how you can stay engaged in the process. And once you figure out how you can stay engaged, then stay connected, not necessarily physically, but there are so many other ways you can be connected. Most of your meetings probably now are streamed. They're on Zoom. I mean, there's just so many ways now that we can figure it out.
Yeah. And what an amazing concept that you understand that the work is where it is, and as a parent you can be involved but not control the situation. Children have to have an environment in which they can live and thrive and so forth and so on. And I'm sure your children appreciate the fact that you know what's going on, but as a board member, you're able to. That's important.
Right.
So, and we didn't have any information in the bio about board members, so we won't get into that whole conversation tonight.
We can go there if you want to go there. We'll go there. I'd love to talk to you about my experience on the school board.
Here's what I will say at this point. Is there anything that I've left off for tonight? Because we're going to get you back up as we need to. For tonight that you would love to share with the audience at this point?
Well, first of all, thank you, Dr. Wright. Man, 30 minutes went by quick, man. So, thank you for having me on here. I appreciate the work that you do, and I've looked at a couple of your podcasts, and you've had some very intriguing topics on here, and I do look forward to come back. I just say, in this changing world, in this changing dynamic, let's first talk about the field of education. I do think that I am a supporter of public education. I've only gone to public education in my life. I have never been to a private entity, but I recognize that parents are making choices as to how their child is going to be educated. And just like we choose what doctor we go to, we choose what church we go to, we choose all those things for our children, we're now also choosing what school our children go to and what district our school's children go to. Middle-class parents have always had that choice. And now through legislation, poor parents are getting that choice. I mean, just yesterday, the high school league changed the whole rules as it relates to athletics in high school. And you're probably more educated on that than I am. I understand it at a 40,000 feet level, but as a superintendent, you're going to have to deal with it you're going to be boots on the ground dealing with that. So my parting advice is that as public school leaders, superintendents, board members, how do we put our districts in better positions where parents want to choose us? How do you create an athletic program in Sumter where you ain't worried about kids going anywhere else because you've got an A1 athletic program? Because what does that ultimately mean for your district? If children choose to go somewhere else, every child represents an opportunity to educate them. But you started the conversation, the business of education, that also equals an allotment. That also equals dollars walking out of your district. And so we've got to put ourselves in a position where we are the choice. We are the choice. And so that's my parting comments to educational leaders like myself on school boards and yourself as superintendents. Let's make our public system the absolute premier opportunity for education in this state. So we become the choice, and everybody else is secondary when it comes to parents having thoughts about where they're going to send their children.
Yeah, 28 years ago, Montrio, when I started this work as a teacher, way back yonder, I used to get in trouble with my colleagues for saying that, yeah, I hear you that, part of what we do is, we don't want to call it a business, but I talked about the fact that education, at least in some respects, is a business. And 27, 28 years ago, that wasn't very popular. Well, now we're being asked to market ourselves. We're
Right.
being asked to, make sure that we are producing a product and
Right.
all of those things.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
And so for me, at that point, at some point, we got to acknowledge that, and I get it. We're serving children. Like
they're not widgets. They're not widgets. We're not selling widgets.
But at some point, education is a business. We are producing a product for the world, and so I really do appreciate that perspective and viewpoint, and I'll say to you, with the presence of my audience, thank you for this work, and thank you for what you are doing. And we started this journey many years ago, 2004, 5, somewhere along in there, and certainly I'm proud of the work that you're doing, and looking forward to continuing to work with you as we continue this journey. And this forum is open anytime, even if I don't call you quickly and you're ready to come back up here and share some more nuggets with us. That's what this forum is for. That's what we built it for. So thank you for that. And thank you for imparting your knowledge to us. And if you give me just 1 minute, we'll come back and close out the show.
Thank you.
I'd like to inform the audience that very shortly we are going to be unveiling a partner that is coming aboard with us to help with some sponsorship options for the Wright Experience. I'm excited about that. We are in our 4th calendar year of the show now, and certainly I'm proud of the progress that's going. And I want you to do me a favor as you continue to view this content. We're going to continue to try to bring you the very best guests that we can find for you. And I'd like for you to spread the word and tell folks about it. And obviously on our YouTube page, we'd love for you to subscribe to us. And as I tell folks, subscribing doesn't cost you anything except a click, but we benefit from it because we let people know that we have this content here and available for you. We've done somewhere around 120 or so episodes, and we're continuing to build content that we believe is helpful at all. As you can see tonight, Dr. Belton is a very accomplished attorney doing some great work. He's available to those of you that need his expertise, and we will continue to seek guests. We're looking for guests. Please contact me if you have guests that you would like for us to see. Dr. Belton, Montrio, Dr. Belton, we'll go back and forth with that. I just want to say thank you for being a part of the Wright Experience and coming aboard. And this will not be our last time having you aboard. I'm already thinking of some other topics. We'll get you back up here when we're having board member conversations and things of that nature. We'll try that lens out and some other things. So thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this show.
Thank you, Dr. Wright.
And to the Wright Experience audience, good evening.